This is the ACMER Laser P1 S Pro 36W laser engraver and cutter. In this review, I'm going to show you how I made real projects that I'm actually working on, rather than a bunch of random material tests or projects that I downloaded from the internet. I do really need these projects, and I would have used a different laser if I didn't have this one. So what you see here are authentic use cases. I'll also do a couple of tests on lighter materials to get an idea of the range of capabilities that this laser has. ACMER positions this laser as their best budget laser, designed for users ranging from beginner to more advanced users, and I think that's true, and you'll see that as we go through the tests. Now, they state that range of users most likely because the laser is available in power outputs ranging from 6 to 48 watts, providing wide application across multiple materials that can be cut and engraved by a diode laser. The version I have here is the 36W version, and it comes with a free air pump, which is a must-have if you're doing laser cutting. The free air pump also comes with 20 and 40W versions, but you do need to buy it separately if you go for the lower powered 6 and 10W models. Now, ACMER did provide this laser for testing, but I'm not being paid for the review, and ACMER had no input into how I was going to test it. No money exchanged hands, but I do get to keep the laser. And a quick thank you to ACMER for their patience, as this review has taken me a lot longer than expected. Now, I'll be focusing on cutting in this review. Be sure to watch my other video where I focus on engraving with this laser, so get subscribed to see that one. Now, there's a bit to cover, so you can skip ahead with the chapter markers below. First, let's take a quick look at the setup. This is a kit laser with an open frame design. That helps keep the cost down. But it does introduce issues that you need to handle, like protection from the laser beam and the smoke and fumes created. This laser will suit you if you already have an enclosure or if you're willing to build one. All my testing was done in my enclosure, which I built myself out of recycled materials, and a bit of orange acrylic for a window in the top. I also built an exhaust system which vents smoke and fumes directly outside. You absolutely need an enclosure when using open frame lasers. If you can't build one yourself, then ACMER does also sell an enclosure that fits this laser. But remember, this is pitched as a best budget laser and assumes that you will either already have an enclosure solution, are willing to build one, or that you'll buy one as an add-on. Setup is quite straightforward. You'll need to be the kind of person who likes to put kits together. If that's you, then this will be simple and probably take you about an hour or so. The kit comes very well packaged with all the parts nicely protected by the foam inserts in the box. When you start taking the parts out, you'll notice straight away that they feel solid and well made. Compared with an open frame laser I reviewed from another brand, this laser feels heavier duty and inspires confidence. The parts are all easy to identify and the instruction manual is easy to follow. When you look at them all laid out, there's actually not much to it, if you like assembling kits. The standout feature I noticed straight away was the laser module itself. This thing feels very solid. The air assist tube on the side is large and sturdy, and the focus gauge to focus the laser is the flip down type, which I was very glad to see because this makes focusing the laser so much easier. There are 4 main steps to assembling the laser, and each step in the manual has a corresponding numbered bag with the parts required for each step. You work through these one by one to complete the assembly, and I really like that process. There's a separate bag for tools and accessories, including a USB adapter for the included 4GB micro SD card, which contains Wi-Fi connection data and software for Laser GRBL, and I'll get onto software later in the review. The first step is to assemble 3 sides of the frame and attach the motherboard socket to the front. You'll need to be careful to align these pieces the right way, and fortunately the instructions are very easy to follow for this process. Then it's a matter of following each of the remaining steps in the manual, making sure that you use the correctly labelled bag for the pieces that you need. Now, I won't go into the details of each step, but I can say that this process was very easy to follow. I will call out a couple of details in the assembly process which I think deserve some attention. Firstly, the X-axis. I need to emphasize here again that this laser suits those people who like putting kits together. All the parts look and feel very well made and the instructions are clear, but you need to be focusing on what you're doing here. Nothing is difficult, but some of the adjustments just need that extra bit of care. You can see here that the X-axis has 4 rollers which are all mounted on bearings. You'll need to make adjustments to those to get the tension just right when they roll along the frame. This is quite straightforward, but it's not something that you'll do in a hurry. Take a few extra minutes to enjoy the process of putting the kit together and you'll find this quite satisfying. The next part which deserves a special mention is the installation of the Y-axis belts. Thread these carefully around the rollers and optical axis module. This might be a bit fiddly, and you can see I've turned the laser over here to make this easier. Then tension the belts. Installing the T-nut, which allows you to tension the belt, can be tricky. I found that it was easier to disassemble the corner frame piece to get better access to the section that the T-nut slides into. Once I'd figured that out, installation was much simpler. Then it's a matter of connecting the cables to the various connectors on the X-axis. These are all clearly labelled and they're all made to specifically fit, so it's difficult to get this wrong. Then attach the air assist hose and secure the cables and hose with cable ties to make sure nothing snags and that everything moves freely. And then you're pretty much ready to go. As far as input connections go, you've got the Wi-Fi aerial on the front, which connects you to the smartphone app, and then the SD card slot and another input, which I presume is for other accessories. The laser comes with everything you need to get working straight away, including its own software called ACMER Studio, and I'll get onto that later in the video. A couple of quick changes I made was substituting the supplied USB-B to USB-A cable with this USB-B to USB-C cable because my MacBook doesn't have a USB-A port. And I also added this inline switch to the power connection for the air assist so that I could manually turn the air assist on and off more easily. Like I said, if you're doing laser cutting, then you definitely need an air assist. As mentioned, I'm not going to do a full range of material cutting tests, but I will show you the processes I followed to make actual projects that I'm currently working on. But I will show you this first cutting test, which used the material settings test in the supplied ACMER Studio software. I just ran a basic material test without looking too much at the settings, hoping to get a result similar to what I'm used to with Lightburn. But then I quickly realized that this was going to take a bit more work to get right. Now you can use it, but if you're used to using Lightburn, then you might find it easier just to stick with that. So yeah, this material test was a fail, but you can use ACMER Studio to get this right. So let's come back to that project I mentioned at the start of the video. In this case, I'm using 19mm pine to make a chisel crate. I've used this design in many school workshops where I've had to manage a large number of tools. In this example, I've only got 4 chisels to demo because I don't need 32 chisels personally. But this is a real project which is now in service in a real school. In fact, I've made 2 of them, and there'll be more to come. I started by testing some 13mm pine at around 300mm per minute, and found that it was better to use a slightly faster speed, but with an additional pass. This means that the laser leaves less charring on the top surface and gives a cleaner cut all the way through. I found that 400mm per minute also provided an excellent result. Adjusting for the extra thickness, I then moved on to 19mm thick pine at 300 to 350mm per minute, ranging from 4 to 6 passes. Now, using this many passes may sound excessive, but it did give the result I was looking for. And something to keep in mind is that there will be a point where the laser focus just simply won't be up to the job anymore as you get deeper into the material. The timber itself will also vary on the inside as timber isn't perfectly uniform, so there is some trial and error in this process. But overall, I was very pleased with this performance and I knew I'd be able to complete the job. I then ran a couple of tests which simulated the actual construction of the crate to get my sizing right. And once again, the settings I'd chosen seemed to be working quite well for longer sustained cuts. And if you take a look at the pieces that are cut out, you can see that the walls of the cut are surprisingly uniform and straight. I was really impressed by how well this laser was doing the job on this thickness of material. Only in a few cases did I need to knock out some pieces which didn't quite cut all the way through. And given how successful the cutting was on the settings I'd chosen, I put this down to the variances in the timber itself. It was something I was happy to tolerate on this job. So after that, I started on the real pieces for the project, which also required cutting a lot more holes. In fact, just cutting the holes for each level takes 45 minutes at 300mm per minute using 6 passes. Then a couple of simple cuts for the hand sections, and again, really nice smooth cuts through the pine to create these grab handles. On the finished job, I used a 9.5mm roundover router bit to create the smooth edges. Now let's look at some thinner material like laser ply. And this is where I'll come back to my comment on material settings tests. I find that these are a good start to get a general idea of the range you can use for cutting. Engraving is a bit different because sometimes you want to choose the effect, but with cutting it's either cut or it isn't. And ideally you want this to happen as quickly as possible. With this sample you can see that 400mm per minute will work, but that's just with this little square. I find that when you use that upper setting for longer cuts, you can run into problems. And you can see here that 350mm per minute provides more reliable cuts over longer distances. And please excuse the honeycomb marks on the ply. I was using a piece of offcut that I didn't want to waste and, well, my honeycomb could do with a clean. So how does that then translate into a real project? This is a small project I designed to experiment with box design. It can take a small candle, either electric or a real one, or be used as some kind of organizer. I like this project because it has enough detail to test the capabilities of the laser over longer cutting jobs, and it's something I designed and made. I have no real reason to make it, other than just liking the process and the design. The results are great. Clean cuts all the way through with no surface charring or marks. I did give the surfaces a very quick sand to remove some black soot that was transferred from my fingers onto the pieces during handling. You'll notice that there was a lot of smoke during the cutting, and that's most likely because the honeycomb grill and stainless base plate, well, they haven't been cleaned in a while, and the laser is causing that to smoke during the cutting process as the beam hits those stained surfaces. Now, to get the project to just click together, I had to do a kerf offset test. I wanted just enough grab so that the parts would click together without needing to use any glue. I found that a kerf offset of 0.11mm was just right. To test this offset, I used two sides of this simple box design and then cut two tests, starting at 0.06mm and then 0.08mm. Seeing that there was still quite a bit of play in these pieces, I then jumped up to 0.11mm, because I'm looking for a nice snug fit so that the pieces of this design snap together without being so tight that you start to damage the thin outer surface of the ply. And I reckon this was just about right. Now, what about cutting through thicker laser ply? Well, I don't have any on hand, but I tried to just put additional pieces together to simulate thicker ply, and that kind of worked, but after a few attempts I realized that the cut pieces were actually getting in the way and it was affecting the cutting process too much. So after a few tries, yeah, I abandoned that test. But I did try something else with 15mm birch ply, and then some really thick pine. With the birch ply, I tried using settings between 200 and 350mm per minute and 2 to 6 passes to cut through it. Birch ply isn't laser ply, so it's going to be much less predictable in the way that it cuts. Laser ply uses special adhesives that are better suited to laser cutting, and I have no idea how this birch ply is glued. So to see how well the laser penetrated, I cut through each test section to see how effective it was. You can see that in each case the laser failed to cut through this ply even though it's 4mm thinner than the pine I was successfully cutting through. That also likely has something to do with this birch ply just being more difficult to cut through than basswood. Then I tried much thicker pine, measuring 40mm thick. This is actually from laminated board. In this test, I stayed mostly clear of the lamination line, but I did also cut through it so that you can see the effect of the adhesive. I used a simple 30mm diameter circle at 350mm per minute, and then used passes of 10, 15, and 20. Now I realized that this really was pushing the laser way past what you'd try with this machine, but I wanted to try it anyway. 10 and 15 passes got most of the way through the pine, and I was quite impressed with that. Notice how the top cut is very clean given how many passes the laser made around the same circle. This is also a good indication of the accuracy of the laser, showing that it's cutting in exactly the same location with each rotation. You can see that with 20 passes, the laser almost cut through, which I was really surprised by. You can also see how much the line of lamination affects the cut, most likely due to the adhesive used, I think. So, no cut for this one, but a good attempt, I reckon. Another project I'm currently working on is this very simple laser cut piece using 3mm laser ply. This is for an electric car project that I've been making with students, and as I've been working on the project, I've found this laser to be super handy for making quick cuts after minor design changes. You often see highly complex cuts being used for demos on lasers like this on YouTube, but if you want a laser to work on a particular project that needs laser cutting for a particular purpose, or you're making a functional part, you might just want something that works reliably to give you a good result. There's nothing overly complex about this object, but having a laser of this size which I can use to confidently cut through material like this without having to worry about cutting capacity is so useful. Lastly, let's try some really thin material like this copy paper and this super thin card. Now, of course, you'd expect this to work because if you can cut through 19mm pine, then this shouldn't be an issue. And I'm pleased to say that the cuts were clean and accurate without any scoring or charring of the paper. It shows that this laser is quite versatile in its cutting capacity. Now, I haven't tested the full range of materials that you can cut with a diode laser because, well, we'd be here all day. But it gives you an idea of how well it cuts thin and thick materials. Now let's talk a little bit more about ACMER Studio and connection via the app. ACMER Studio works and gives you good functionality with basic shapes and editing tools. So you can create your designs directly in ACMER Studio and get cutting or engraving. If you don't want to spend any extra money on software like Lightburn, then this will definitely get you started. You can also import your own files from other applications like makercase.com or boxes.py, which I used for my Kerf test and candle holder in this video, or perhaps a CAD application, and then make further edits. The software works on a similar format to Lightburn, using a layered structure with individual settings for each layer, which can be adjusted here. If Lightburn looks too complicated, then this simplified interface will get you going. It's important to note here that other brands have much more tightly integrated software for driving their lasers, and they're much more developed to get users up and running with automated settings and material profiles. But that comes at a cost, and keep in mind, ACMER is pitching this as a best budget laser. There is also a mobile app which allows you to interact with basic movement and engraving controls. Now, I appreciate that there is an app, but it doesn't offer much functionality, and I didn't find myself wanting to use it. Perhaps that's because I already have a Lightburn license, but it's more likely that I'm usually right next to the laser when it's operating, and if I'm going to be right next to it, then I'm most likely going to be using my Mac with a direct connection. Now, you might think that it could be good for remote monitoring, but I'm hesitant to leave a laser job running without supervision because of the fire risk, so a mobile connection over Wi-Fi isn't really going to be that useful. Well, at least not for me anyway. So, some concluding thoughts. Open frame lasers like this one can be very divisive because of the perceived safety risks of exposure to the laser and the smoke and fumes. And those risks are real. For example, the safety glasses provided give little indication of what type of protection they offer. The glasses I've been using in my testing are these ones, which clearly state on the lens the wavelength that they provide protection from and the optical density rating, in this case OD7, which is fine for this type of laser. Now, I think that one way that ACMER could improve is to provide better glasses, and perhaps spend less time working on mobile apps that don't really offer that much extra value to the user to help offset the costs. Better glasses would certainly add more value, even if the sticker price on the laser was just a few dollars more. And as far as the enclosure goes, ACMER does also sell enclosures and air purifiers as optional extras. So, if you already have glasses, an enclosure, and a ventilation system, or you're willing to buy them and you just need the laser itself, then yes, this is a good purchase. And of course, if you like putting kits together. I found this laser to work flawlessly with Lightburn, and the 36W laser module has performed well beyond my expectations. The quality of the parts and functionality are both excellent for the price. In fact, I've been so happy with it so far that, well, I've actually been considering what else I might be able to achieve with the 48W version. As mentioned, I'm also doing a video focusing on the engraving capabilities of this laser, so get subscribed to see that one. There's been a bit to get through in this video. I'll leave an affiliate link in the description if you'd like to purchase this laser. It doesn't cost you any extra to use the link, and it does help to support the channel. Once again, my thanks to ACMER for sending me this laser to test. If you've got value out of this video, then hit the like button, leave a comment, and consider subscribing. And we'll see you in the next one.